It's now been 5 days since the assassination attempt against Donald Trump, and we still do not know the shooter's motive. We have learned some new details. The assassin reportedly wrote on a gaming streaming platform, quote, "July 13th will be my premiere. Watch as it unfolds." Plus, the shooter visited the rally site twice before the attack, according to CNN. Now, when investigators reviewed the assassin's laptop, they found searches in July for Trump, Biden, DNC convention, and July 13th Trump rally. The FBI found it notable that there was no evidence of a particular ideology, Fox reported. Now, the suspect also had two phones. The primary phone was found at the scene, along with a remote transmitter. The secondary phone was found at his home. That phone had only 27 contacts, and the FBI is in the process of tracking down and interviewing those people. The Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheadle, will testify Monday in front of the House Oversight Committee about the assassination attempt. We look forward to hearing about that. Meanwhile, the circumstances surrounding the shooting have raised major questions for MSNBC's Joy Reid. Take a listen.
We still don't know for sure whether Donald Trump was hit by a bullet, whether he was hit by glass fragments, whether he was hit by shrapnel. We don't have those details. We actually have no details from his physician, even though this man is still a Secret Service protected, and presidential candidate. We know almost nothing. Why? Why don't we know that much? We know that 3 people were shot. 1 person, unfortunately, was killed at the rally. We don't know where they were sitting or standing relative to him. We don't know why, for 9 full seconds, Donald Trump was allowed to stand back up during an active shooter situation, even though they, at that point, had said the shooter was down. How would they have known if there were more shooters or not? Nobody knew. That there could have been 5 shooters for all they knew. Yet they allowed him to stand up in the middle of that, crisis and pose for a photo.
And Joe Rogan also had some questions.
And then there's these questions like, how the does this 20-year-old kid climb on that roof 150 yards away and no one sees him?
Well, that one guy was pointing at him the whole time.
Yes.
He's like pointing to, he's right there.
And they're yelling, he's got a gun. There's a guy in the prone position on a roof 150 yards away from the former president. The whole thing's nuts. The whole thing stinks of either incompetence or a design, or we're in the Matrix.
I think it's fair to say incompetence or design, or we're in the Matrix.
Could be one of those
Are they all
3.
mutually exclusive? I don't know, Robbie.
So Joe Rogan's questions, unlike Joy Reid's questions, Joy Reid was questioning something that we already know the answer to. No, he was grazed by the bullet. That's been confirmed. There was some, she wants it to be glass fragments, I think, because that sounds less cool.
Well, Newsmax initially reported the glass fragment story, that it was the teleprompter.
They were wrong. It was a bullet. I mean, that's what all the mainstream and all of the reporting says. That's what Trump has said himself. And you can see the bullet passing his head. Nobody's shown any evidence of a damaged teleprompter. So it's established that it's been a bullet, unless there's some contrary reporting. I think she wants it to not be a bullet because that's the cooler thing, and she wants it not to be so cool. I think they want an official statement from the Secret Service on precisely what happened. Yeah, I want an official statement from the Secret Service on why they did not stop this thing quicker. Why did they did not get Trump off the stage or put him down the second they knew? They already knew there was a guy with a gun on the roof. We interviewed someone from the Secret Service yesterday, and I appreciated a former Secret Service agent with some expertise who was trying to put us at ease, and I appreciated him being on the show, but I'm not satisfied at all. I don't think anyone is. So it'll be interesting to hear Kimberly Cheadle answer questions on Monday about the obvious security failings. They failed. Trump got shot. Someone died because they did not neutralize this threat quickly enough, even though bystanders were pointing it out and gesturing to the shooter. And the police had knowledge of the shooter being there. There's now been additional reporting that they had interacted with him earlier, and they had noticed his scope when he was trying to enter the secure perimeter, and that had not raised any red flags for the screening people. They'll stop you from bringing in for like controlled areas security officer, they will confiscate. I mean, they'll confiscate bottles of water. You know, they will do. They have total license to say no, you can't bring that in. Think like a scope for a gun was not something they thought they needed to confiscate. They did flag him as like a suspicious person and then took no additional action. We also learned yesterday there was reporting that his parents had reported him missing because he wasn't home at the time he said he would be home, and they actually called law enforcement. Now, I didn't see subsequent reporting that they specifically thought he was going to do something violent or dangerous, but that they were alarmed that he wasn't there. So I have a lot of questions. I don't think we're living in the Matrix. I think incompetence is the most likely answer, but that doesn't mean it's excusable that it's just incompetence.
Perhaps the transmitter was supposed to be going to these people that he promised this would be his big debut. And I hate the idea that it could have been something that was planned and he wasn't working alone and it had something to do with Iran, it had something to do with the CIA. I don't like any of those prospects, but as soon as people saw the transmitter, everyone was asking questions. It seems to me that there's a suspicious lack of evidence as to who this guy was. 27 contacts is not very many.
Well, I mean, that tells you something, right?
It does tell you something, right? So it's one of two
loner,
things.
Loser,
right.
Which is the exact kind of person who commits these kinds. Well,
but what I would say is it's a suspicious lack of use of the internet as well. The fact that we don't have a lot of information about this guy, if he doesn't have that many contacts, what was he doing all day with his time? Maybe he's not using typical internet servers and he is online. Maybe he's in the local library. There's a lot of digging you have to do. This is either someone who's highly suspicious with the amount of information we can't find about him, or as you said, this is someone who's like intensely lonely, which is also terrifying and sad.
It sounds like, yeah, there's no evidence so far he was very active on social media, which suggests to me he's not very political at all. He was active on, this was Steam, this streaming gaming platform. We might find out he spends all his time playing video games or something. Yeah, the fact that he Googled DNC additional, it looks like that starts, I mean, that does frankly start to paint a picture of someone who is just looking to do something attention-seeking and is not particularly ideologically motivated. That additionally speaks to why it was so rash and unwise to say that heated rhetoric was encouraging this kind of thing. Everything we're learning so far suggests unhinged, loner-type psychopath. Now, obviously, we could learn more information that complicates that picture, so we'll see. But that's the vibe I'm getting so far. So from the him perspective, it makes, I mean, this describes many potential mass shooter type people, assassin type people often fall into this category of, you know, loner, weirdo, bullied, etc.
I do think the United States is
not ideologue.
A violent society. I don't think that's a new or recent thing. This is a country founded on violence. And even the rhetoric...
Well, every country is founded on violence.
Nah, that's not true. We go abroad and take over nations we disagree with a little bit politically. Our politics are violence, always. The rhetoric
is violence.
Around... That can be argued, yes. Is there a peaceful politics? Is it philosophical?
No, it's the exercise of force. The governments have a monopoly on the legitimate use of force. Governments everywhere are violent. To assert that this is a nation and the people under it are under the purview of the ruling forces is inherently a violent, like illegitimate violence is bad, but violence obviously can be used for
and
legitimate
anarchy
purposes,
is peace,
including
Robbie. Very Machiavellian.
I mean, I'm kind of an anarchist libertarian, so it sounds fine to me. But
wow.
But there's nothing. I'm saying there's nothing special about America in terms of violence as a founding. Right? We rebelled against the British. Is that what you mean by it has violent origins? I mean, again, that's true of.
I mean, it's founded on stolen land and genocide and slavery. Is what built the capital.
Every place is founded on stolen land.
Not people who are native to that land, Robbie. Anyway, I don't want to get into this.
People who are natives, the natives fought each other constantly. They went to war with each other constantly. It is totally false that this was some idyllic peaceful state of nature,
they
like
didn't
hippie.
put all of their productive capacity towards
They
creating weapons
scalped
like
people.
we did.
Did you see what the Aztecs
They
did? This
scalped
was a
settlers
violent
that came to the U.S.
No,
Okay.
they scalped each other. This was a violent continent filled with savage, violent people that was then conquered by people who were also violent and savage. I'm not saying we're better than them, but we're certainly no worse. I mean, when the Spanish came over, they allied. They allied with native populations in various areas who hated the Aztecs because the Aztecs had butchered them by the thousands. So it is just not the case that this was a peaceful land and that peace was trampled by the European invaders. Violence and warfare is not unique to our experience, is the part of every civilization in every part of the world since the dawn of human history.
I'm glad you got that out. What I was going on to
ahead.
say is that following all of this and the conversation around unity and people saying we need to move away from violence, people started saying, and Senator Nina Turner is the first person I saw, someone who seeks peace and justice, but said we have to fight violence. Even the language we use to quell violence is violent. Joe Biden was saying we have to, solve this at the battle box, which, sure, he has a lot of gaffes, could have been a Freudian slip. Even the language we use to condemn violence is violent. We know nothing else as a country. And so I think we have to get more in the mindset of seeking peace, regardless of how you feel about all societies and whatever philosophy you have. I think we have to grapple with the fact that we have the largest military in the world. This is where we direct so much of our productive capacity and resources. And if we are to change as a society, we have to change fundamentally at a psychological level and maybe a philosophical level as well.
Tell us what you think in the comments. We'll have more Rising right after this.